So we're here again for what marks the fifth episode of the Connected Carcast. Today we back with us again is Renz Kuipers from Carvoyant. And we also have a special guest coming in from Edmunds, Ismail Elshareef. This is going to be a fun one, I think. I know you guys have been doing a lot of stuff and together. You've been traveling the world together. And I wanted to get you guys to hear a little bit more about what's happening in the world of auto APIs. So welcome, Ismail, and let's start it off. First question. So Edmunds seems to be embracing APIs in a pretty big way. Just wonder if you could tell me a little bit more about what you're doing and why this is important to the company's future.
Sure. Oh, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. It's great to be on this call with you. So at Edmunds, we use APIs to spur innovation and also to create strategic partnerships. And the way we started, we wanted to put the brand out there and create brand awareness, and also increase innovation and so forth. So it was really important for the company, all of these great things, but we couldn't quantify them in the beginning. So it was kind of like hard for us to get the API initiative off the ground, but I'm happy to say that we're doing very, very well today, and the company sees huge value in it.
Yeah, I imagine getting everyone inside of Edmunds on board with something like this was not an easy task. I'm a co-founder of Corporate Rebels United, so I know what that is. I know what it's like. Affecting change in a large company. Was there anything that suddenly got the company to jump on board with the API strategy, or was it a slower, more steady type of adoption?
That's a great question, actually. No, it was not. It wasn't like a big thing that happened. It was more of a debate that happened internally because Edmunds is an established company. We have a core business. We're doing very well. So not a lot of people, and especially on the executive board, saw a huge need for APIs. Especially when we couldn't quantify the goals or like the outcome of those APIs in the very beginning. So what really worked in our favor is having an executive sponsor that was pushing the agenda of open data and open APIs amongst his peers, and that in our case that was the chairman of the company, the owner of the company, which is not a bad executive sponsor to have.
No, I've been there on that one, and that seems to be the executive sponsor seems to be the real trick to making this stuff happen.
But an unusual one to actually land, because most of your competitors are having a hard time figuring out what they would do or can do, and to have someone at that position spearhead the charge, pretty cool.
Absolutely, and what's working in our favor too is we own most of our data. Obviously, we have some data that we license from third parties and so forth, but most of the data that we have is ours. So it wasn't a big deal for us to make it available for free and open and so forth. It was just getting through the hurdle of legal saying that we're cannibalizing our system and why we're doing this and so forth, worrying about our intellectual property, if you will, and whether our system is going to be rendered obsolete if people pick up our data and create the next Edmunds and so forth. So going through all of these things and talking to the different constituents here within the company and seeing where they're coming from and kind of like trying to resonate or reason with them helped us a huge lot, getting this through.
Right. Very, very, very little from the technology side, a lot more from the IP side.
Business. Absolutely. No, the technology guys were like, yeah, let's do this. Let's open it up. It was mostly legal and product, actually. Yeah.
I imagine you had to do a lot of education internally, evangelism internally. Better word.
Absolutely. We had to explain how we can manage API access, how we can shut people out that are abusing our data and not following our terms of service. We had to kind of just sit down and have a conversation with all of these different constituents and see where they're coming from, trying to see what motivates them. Because at the end of the day, lawyers, want to protect the company, but they also want to see the company grow. So once we started talking to the issue from that perspective, it made a huge sense for them, the why we should open the APIs. And as long as we gave them the assurances that we were going to have the system in place to manage the bad apples in terms of like developers trying to take advantage of our data, they were good with it, and they gave us the green light, and that's what we when we launched the API.
And I would have to imagine having a couple of home run cases early on didn't hurt
Exactly.
once you got launched, right?
That helped. That helped a lot, for sure.
Yeah, that actually goes to what my next question is what are people doing with the Edmunds API? I heard through the grapevine that a developer team in the Northeast used it to build a widget that's been a bit of a huge success.
Yeah. So we were very lucky. I mean, the data set that we have is very specific, and people that or want to have access to it are very passionate about it. That's what we found out. We have a 50% engagement in terms of the developer base that uses our API, which is huge. I mean, I think the standard industry, the industry standard is 20% of the amount of people that sign up for a key and end up actually engaged with the API. So early on, like a few months after we launched the API, a solution provider in Queens, New York, with 10 to 20 developers shop kind of thing, that have 300 plus dealerships that they work with. They create websites and apps for those dealerships. They built a solution using our data that helped the dealerships, create value for the consumers in terms of allowing the consumer to get the value of their trade and then submit a lead for a new car on their website. It's a simple widget, that they built for them. But what we learned was that little widget was extremely successful, and the dealerships that got it loved it so much that that they were actually seeing more leads coming through it than other traditional solutions on their websites were doing. So we talked to this solution provider and asked them to if they would actually work with us, because we could help them scale, take that widget and sell it not only to 300 dealerships that they've already sold to, but to the 12,000 dealerships that we work with as Edmunds.com. And we can approach that as a rev share kind of business. They said yes. We took it and ran with it, and they're making a lot of money right now.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea, we're selling this widget for a few $100s a month on a subscription basis to each dealer, because they see huge value in it. That's the amount of money they're willing to pay for it. So you could do the math and see how much money is being made just from one application.
Nice. And I also understand that you guys were also briefed recently by an MBA team out of UCLA. MBA,
Yes.
not NBA. And they were studying the connected car.
Yeah.
Anything you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. So the leadership here at Edmunds knows that the connected car and Internet of Things is coming. It's inevitable, and we needed to get ahead of that and see if there's a business opportunity for us to leverage in that field. So what we did was we worked with MBA students from UCLA on the business opportunities that do exist within the connected car space. And actually, we worked with friends in Carvoyant on figuring out some of the questions that they had and helping them out with their research. So I spent 6 months of the past year doing that with them. Their recommendation was for us to get into the space and actually build the platform and help developers build on top of APIs, which sounds like something like Carvoyant is doing right now.
Very familiar.
Which is, yeah, exactly. Sounds really familiar. But I think that's really the future. That's why we love working with Carvoyant. And I think there's something something big is going to happen in the next few months in that space. And I feel that, with Edmunds and Carvoyant are really positioned, really well in that space to make something happen.
And why do you think that is? Is is it because of, I know Carvoyant is big on, open data and the data that comes out of your car is yours.
Right.
Is that something that you're hearing from developers as well, or from customers and dealers?
I don't think people are talking about this just yet. I think that discussion is going to happen eventually. But if you look at it, I mean, the car is the ultimate mobile device, and it hasn't been really leveraged the way it should be. So right now everybody's wearing a lot of electronics that measure your heart rate, your activity. I'm wearing one right now. I'm wearing the Up, Jawbone Up. I mean, if we're measuring, data that's coming out of our bodies and our activities and all of that's done in the Google Glass, right? And all of these devices. What about the device, the biggest mobile device that we're in, if you live in LA, you're in it most of your waking hours. So why, it's just going to be an inevitable thing that you want to read meaningful data coming out of that device. So I think the conversations are not happening just yet. At least from the consumer perspective, they're not expecting it. Most consumers don't know that that's even possible, to be honest, unless they're using Automatic or Zuby or this and that, which just started to come out.
Which is something we saw on, just at the start of the regular app centric API world.
Exactly. You're just seeing the cycle happen for the Internet of Things right now, and it's going to be huge.
It starts out with some of the consumer focused stuff, and then comes back to the platform, and a lot of the, what do they call it, the data exhaust that's happened out of there.
Absolutely, and that's why I think companies like Carvoyant are doing it really well, because like if you look at Automatic and Zuby, it's like a one device, the OBD device that makes the car connected, and one app. And eventually that's just not going to scale. It's not going to work out. We need a one connected car and an array of apps that are available to the driver and to the person who's interested in this data. That's why I think having a platform is the way to go. Now, the trick here is to generate apps that people are going to find interesting or engaging and start using. And that's kind of the biggest trick, to get people into using those apps on a regular basis, or at least see value in them, to make the platform meaningful to the developers.
And get enough of those apps to be really passive, right? So they're
Yes.
working in the background. People don't have to think about it, set it, forget it, and all that data flows, and consumers derive value and don't even have to think about it.
Absolutely, and most of the value that you offer consumers is really data insight, which brings in the whole big data question. And I know big data is under a lot of fire right now, but I got to say there's a lot of value that can be offered just from insight into consumers or the drivers' habits and patterns and so forth.
Is there anything you guys are looking to do in the future with your API program that you can tell us? I'm not asking you to give away all the secret sauce, but any new directions or initiatives?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the connected car and the work that we're doing with Carvoyant, we're actually working very heavily on creating a widget SDK, because we were feeling that the APIs, the standalone APIs, if you will, are great, and a lot of people are leveraging them the right way. But also, there's something to be said about a widget and making it super easy for people to build a widget from in 5 minutes, if the framework is provided by us, hopefully. So right now we're building a widget SDK to make it even easier for other folks like that solution provider in Queens, New York, to build solutions that could be sold or leveraged and generate millions of dollars for Edmunds and for them.
Cool. I've seen some of that happen in the WebRTC space as well, with the SDKs. Same model.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about what you're seeing in the industry. I know you just got back from Amsterdam at the API Strat conference. Glad to see them going over there. I know that went really well for everybody there. Yeah. And I also believe you guys were under the big top at Circus Maximus.
Yep.
Down at South by with the great folks at Mashery. So, what are some of the things that you heard from people at the conferences, and are there any trends that you think you see that are developing?
In terms of technology, or when it comes to cars and automotive?
Wide open.
Wide open. I think the Internet of Things, like go back to that, is going to be huge this year. I mean, it started picking up obviously with Nest and Google Glass and all of that stuff, but now you're seeing it like, Renz can speak to that as well. At South by Southwest, there were all these connected devices, that alert you if you're missing something, like the connected fridge, in the Maximus Circus. I can't recall the company that was showcasing that, but you're seeing a lot of those things coming out. Hardware connected to the internet and alerting the consumer in some fashion about its state. So Internet of Things is definitely happening, and which means the connected car is happening. But the other thing when it comes to APIs that's really interesting now, we're seeing the APIs kind of mature, and now standards are becoming much more important to developers, as opposed to, in the past, people were like cobbling together, like their API and just putting it out there. For example, in Amsterdam, we were talking about RAML and Swagger and how you describe and how you document your APIs, and what does that mean, and what's the best way to make it easy for developers to consume your data. Now, we have all of these frameworks available. Before we didn't have them, to add more of that kind of structure to how you put out an API. So that's from the API perspective.
Nice. Renz, anything you saw down in Austin?
Just piggybacking on what Ismail said, a lot of connecting things, right, and getting dumb things to be smarter and do stuff for us, and it's. Yeah, like you say, it's an exciting time.
Yeah, definitely that's the biggest theme. We're seeing it. Everybody's trying to get on that wagon, if you will. Some people, it's definitely a hype, and I'm sure it's going to slow down a little bit until it finds that the good spot where it can actually grow, be useful.
And then
we're consumers. Yeah, exactly. And where consumers find real value, right? Like we were talking about the connected car. Knowing a little something about the car, that's not enough. Getting it to work passively, getting wearables to start producing usable information that people can act upon, that's where it starts to gain major adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like Edmunds is working with Carvoyant right now on creating this mobile connected car app that we're going to be piloting in May. And basically, we just want to learn how consumers use the connected car. Like what matters most to them when they actually have a connected car, that they're driving. We're launching the app with a few feature sets. But we're going to be monitoring what matters most to consumers and also dealerships, because there is a space here where dealers and consumers can communicate in a safe, transparent way to serve both of them well using the connected car context. So that's something that we're going to be launching soon.
Great. Well, I want to thank you a lot for joining us on the Connected Car Cast today.
Yeah.
And looking forward to hopefully having you back on as some of this new stuff that Edmunds is doing with their API program pans out even more.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thanks for coming on, Ismail. Thanks, Mike.
Absolutely, man.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.